All right, so does it sound better there, folks? Another joy of learning how to do this on your own. I forgot to turn the microphones on. So anyway, as I was saying before, if you didn't hear, make sure that when you buy your fabric, your home decor fabric, it normally comes in 56-inch widths. However, sometimes they're in 60. Make sure that they measure it out and roll it onto a tube for you like this. Because if they don't and they fold it, it's going to be a pain in the neck to get the creases out. I had them do that one time with some drapery lining. They couldn't get it onto the tube correctly, and I guess were busy or tired of trying, and so they just folded it. At the time, I didn't think much of it until I tried to use it, and it was creased, and I had to iron it. It was a pain. So don't let them try to do that to you. So normally I would put 2 tables together. In order to do that, though, I have to work in the living room, and I'm not able to set up 2 tables in the living room at the moment. So we'll have to do this here on one table, see how it goes. Okay, so I'm going to roll this out. And time out for a moment. I'm going to put a chair here to lay my bolt on so it doesn't go falling on the floor. All right, so kind of like that. Gotta use what you have, don't ya? All right, so I've got the wrong side of the fabric down here. Let me adjust this so you can see what I'm talking about here. All right, I don't know how well you can see this, but I've got the trying to get you in view here. Okay, so I've got the wrong side of the fabric here. And it's going to be important when we cut this that we pay attention to the fact that this fabric does have a direction to it. Sometimes you get fabrics and the patterns are such that it doesn't matter the direction, but it's gonna matter the direction of this. So for instance, here's this. This is the right side. You can see it. It's upside down to me. It should be right side up to you. You want to make sure that the fabric is going in the correct direction when you cut it to put it onto your cushion. So that's going to be important. So I'll show you when we do this. Now, I did take apart the cover that was on one of the cushions that's currently on the sofa just to see how it was put together so that I could try to just replicate that as best as possible. And I found that there is what they call piping or welting around the edges of the cushion, which gives it a finished look. And normally to do that, like if I were to make pillows or something, I would just make that as a separate piece of cording, and I would put it around the edges, sandwiched together between the 2 pieces, so that when you turn it the right side out, the welting or the piping shows. However, that's not how it was done on the cushions downstairs. It was done a little differently. It was actually sewn into the actual cushion fabric itself. And I'll show you what I mean as we go on. I'm going to give that a try. I think that might work a little bit better anyway. So let me get fabric here, because what I need to do is we're going to need to measure what we need plus a 1-inch seam allowance on the parts that are going to cover the large area top and bottom. So I'm going to need this plus 1-inch seam allowance. And I've also got a red Sharpie here, and I got my tape measure. So let's see if we can't work this out here. So I need to first make sure that my fabric is even, because I don't want it being wonky. And quite honestly, I'm just eyeballing it. Sometimes you can use the pattern lines, like this has weave lines or pattern lines in it, but they're not always going to give you a straight cut either. But if you have to, you have to. You can do that sometimes. Again, this isn't a professional job. I'm going to try to do the best I can, but we'll see. Uh-oh. Then you're going to want to add an inch all the way around. So instead of being 22 here, you're going to do 24 because you're going to want an inch on each side. And then with a 30.5, again, you're going to add another inch on each side. So that's what, 30.5, 31, 32.5. All right, so let's see. Now I know my table has straight edges, so I'm going to actually just line up against this side, because this side I don't know if it's cut even or not. So what did we say? This was 24. So right here to right here is 24 inches. Let's do this, here to here. Well, what do you know? This table is 24 inches wide. Well, there you go. So I'm going to use my table as my guide. So I'm going to try to even this end up. There's my table. Now, I will tell you, it's usually so much easier to do things like this when you have the correct space for it. But, you know, if you don't, you don't. You got to do what you got to do. And that's what I'm doing here. So, hopefully the next project I get to share with you, we'll have our workroom area done. Just want to make sure I stay up against that table there. Makes cutting a little more of a challenge, but at least I know it's going to be even. I'm just going to measure up just to make sure everything looks good. So I'm just going to cut along the edge over here. And if I do that, before I do that, let me just put this on. Yeah, because I've got plenty of room over here. So that'll give us an inch on each side. Perfect. Okay, good. One thing about this fabric, it's a woven fabric, and so it comes unfrayed, and it can be a pain in the neck. So I try to work with it as carefully as possible. You know what? Also, I think now that this shifted just a tiny bit, I had to shift it back. I think next time I'm going to put some weights on here to keep it in place. Alright, so there's that. Let's roll this up for now. So now I just need to do my sides. And once again, I'm going to put this on. Well, actually, no, because I already know we're doing 32.5. So I'm going to leave the selvage on one end because that'll keep it from fraying at least on one end. $32.5 would be right here. So let's see if that is correct. We're going to go to 33. Okay, so 32.5, and what I'm going to do is, since the selvage is normally pretty straight, I'm going to measure from there, and I'm going to go to 32.5, which is right here, and I'm going to take my red Sharpie and make a mark, and I'm going to go up here, I'm going to do the same thing. Make a mark, and now, this is a straight edge that I use for doing cuts with a roller and for quilting and things. Don't do a lot of quilting, but it comes in handy. But I'm going to use this, I'm going to connect my dots here, and just draw a line in my fabric. Okay, so I just drew my red line here with my Sharpie. I'm going to cut this, and this will be my first piece for the one side. And then again, like I said, keep your pieces like this because you can use these for other things. Extra arm covers if you need it. Pillows, whatever. Alright, so all I'm going to do next is just going to lay this on top of my next piece and cut another piece just the size, and then that'll be the top and the bottom, and then I will come back and show you what I do for the sides. Let's just do a quick test here. Oh yeah, this will be great. Perfect. So excited. Okay. So I'll be back in a moment. Okay, so I've got both my top and my bottom pieces cut, and I'm going to set those aside for right now because I need to cut the side pieces. And the side pieces, the distance around is about 102 inches. So I'm going to need that plus 1, 2, 3, 4 inches seam allowance, so 107 inches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut 2 strips, because these are 54-inch wide pieces. I'm going to just cut 2 strips out of this, and I need them to be there's going to be 6.5, 7.5, 8.5, 10.5 inches wide. I'm adding 2 inches seam allowance on both sides for this, for the piping, and I'll explain how that is going to work here in just a minute. I think it's going to work real well, I hope, but we'll see. So anyway, let's get this. I'm going to use this edge of my table because I know this edge is straight, and I'm going to line my back selvage up against it. And yeah, that looks good. Looks pretty straight. I'll straighten this part out. Alright, let's see here. So we're going to do, what did we say? How much was that? 10? 10.5? 6.5? Yes, 10.5. So I'm going to start from the edge. And I'm going to go here, 10.5 inches. Now I'm definitely wanting to make sure that I continue to cut with the direction of the fabric, or this, in this case it'll be against the direction of the fabric, because the way this goes up and down, if you see this, use a spare piece here. So I put this on. This is the direction that I want, so I want to make sure that here it's going in the same direction. I want to make sure it's going this way. So it's going to be really important to piece it correctly when we do. and cutting it, I just want to make sure, that's why I'm cutting it like I am and not in the opposite direction. Alright, so let's get back to this here. Once again, I'm just going to use my red pen and I'm going to do my markings here at about 10.5 inches. From the edge of the table here. And since my ruler is not as long, I'm just going to do this in sections. 10.5. So I'm going to connect this dot and this dot. Now the one thing, if I had it and I was able to, I would use a longer or a bigger cutting mat that people use for quilting. That would work well. But I don't have it, so this is what I'm using. Alright, so I'm just going to measure up and cut. And then I will be back. And then once again, I'll just use this piece as a pattern for the next one. Oops. Okay, so like I said, I'm going to go ahead and cut this out, use this as a pattern for the other piece, and then we will be ready to start putting it together. Alright, so this is my sewing machine here. This is the Singer that my wonderful husband purchased for me the year we got married for Christmas. So this machine is nearly 25 years old, but it's still working fine for basic sewing. It's a Singer, and I love it. And if we start doing more upholstery type things or things with heavier duty fabrics and threads, we'll probably need to upgrade to a heavier duty machine, but this is going to work fine for now.